Hello, everyone. Welcome to Holy Hydrogen, the future of health, beauty, and fitness. Today, we're here with Dr. Sunny Nason. She's our naturopathic friend, and she's our guide along this pathway of education and knowledge regarding the incredible topic of molecular hydrogen. Today, she's going to be talking about the starting line. Sunny, what does that mean? Tell us about it.
It's a pleasure to be here with you. So, what I wanted to talk about today was the introduction of molecular hydrogen as a starting point for better well-being. By listening to me in these episodes, it's sort of giving you a peek into my brain and how my thought process helps me help others to their journey to well-being. So, you'll see me act in a functional way in that I go back and forth on a scale between a micro point where introductions of issues on top of that micro point can lead to impairments. And just like the snap of a finger, going backwards in the other direction in order to find the root of an issue. So as I share information with you today, you may start to recognize that I go back and forth between a micro point or a starting point and then to the broader perspective. And in this way, the subject of our conversation today is about molecular hydrogen being a micro point or a starting point on a journey to better health. So to those who are experienced in the idea and the epiphany about hydrogen, and then conducting experiments with increased efficacy and application since 2005, the conversation about molecular hydrogen is commonplace and just simply necessary. But to many others, the idea of using molecular hydrogen in a therapeutic manner is something rather new. So some people might think of molecular hydrogen when it comes to physics or organic chemistry. Now we're seeing articles pop up about hydrogen as a sustainable or alternative form of energy for power and engines. And it turns out, and completely makes sense, that molecular hydrogen, which is a low molecular weight, non-polar, dynamic compound, it also has potent cellular protective effects in plants and animals and mammals. And so it also lends itself as a friend internally for creating anti-inflammatory and antioxidant properties, as well as providing great potential toward energy for us as well. So we touched upon that in episodes 1 and 2, and I urge you to go back and watch those episodes if you have not seen them yet. But so let's get right into it here. So the bioavailability and nanoparticle size of the hydrogen molecule has it's got the ability to cross membranes and the blood-brain barrier. So it gives it a unique ability to access DNA and mitochondria within the cells where it has a protective action. And so moving into impaired cells and neutralizing the strongest oxygen radical. So while neutralizing free radicals that contribute to disease progression, hydrogen acts as a super antioxidant while allowing the natural process of necessary ROS or reactive oxygen species to take place simultaneously. So the discovery of this symbiotic activity means there are no harmful side effects to account for as the body and the body's cells, the cell activity create an anti-aging and a healthy effect for the person. So I've talked about the root cause of harmful actions for the body. You see, this guy is not quite having a good day. And of course, I will state that, again, we are all different in a way, and we've all had different life paths. Okay, so that when you add together how we've managed our eating habits and our lifestyle, coupled with environmental toxicities or immune disruptors that we've come into contact with, we can see from a higher perspective how all of these elements that have come together create what you and I might be facing. Let's call it a challenge today, right, for the body. And we all want to live well and healthy and just have our faculties for the longest time that we can, right? So now, luckily, an option here, meaning the option of molecular hydrogen, there's many studies that have proven that from way out here, that perspective that I was talking about, where all of our dynamics come into play, can be given some reprieve by looking at where the starting point could be to help all of those different issues among us all. So if you're looking at your self-care task list and thinking that you have a lot to do and that you're overwhelmed, I'm going to suggest that adding molecular hydrogen is a starting point. They say the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. And my suggestion is that the simple act of adding molecular hydrogen, either in hydrogen-rich water or breathing, is the first step in that journey. So it's the first step, it's the starting line. Let me clarify and give you some additional information about the details that these continued discoveries have given us. So Dr. Shigeo Ota from Japan has been at the forefront of discovery with the benefits of molecular hydrogen as a therapeutic agent. I implore you to look up some of his work. It's just really fascinating, and there's been many years to it. So let me just pinpoint some of the major bullet points from his longstanding research about the subject matter. So he says the target of H2 is it's more than just mitochondria to produce energy. It suppresses inflammation, and it helps the skin and beauty and circulation of blood flow, eliminates discoloration on the skin, which we've talked about, and creates a lightening effect for the skin tone. And that hydrogen functions in the regulation of gene expression. So when ingesting hydrogen, it directly reactivates the oxygen species, leading to better use of oxygen and also nitric oxide, the way the body should be using it. So in 10 minutes, hydrogen is detected in all the cells when ingesting it that way. And after 1 hour, the lungs will expel the hydrogen, but the benefits go on for a day. And something that I really want to focus on for a few minutes here is that molecular hydrogen suppresses stress. And what we're talking about is a psychological stress coming from the adrenal glands feeding messages to the stomach, and also the reaction that happens when the stomach, has stress as well. And the stomach can secrete the hormone that reduces stress, right, leading to the stomach-brain interaction via release of gastric hormone. So this is something that is so fascinating to me because I've had many years of interest and study in the gut-brain reaction and connection. And really, it's the gut, brain, and heart, but let's just focus on the gut-brain axis for a moment. In Ayurvedic medicine, the stomach is the center of your entire system. So allowing harmony in the stomach then feeds to the rest of the body, pun intended, and literally creates harmony elsewhere, or at least, adds to it. So the gut-brain axis, it's a two-way communication between the central nervous system and the enteric nervous system. The vagus nerve comes into play here. There's communication through neurotransmitters, which are involved in emotions and mood and the fight or flight response. And then pulses produced in the gut can affect aspects of digestion. Some neurotransmitters are able to regulate the control of blood flow and affect the bowel movements and nutrient absorption. So let's just say that you have some GI issues going on, and there may be different reasons why that ultimately ended up, happening, but problems are coming from the GI tract. Now, you take that over a period of time with a constant inflammatory response, plus adding in environmental factors, and those stress responses start turning on. And then by the time you get to maybe a year of having these issues, now we're looking at things that end up getting diagnosed and have to be treated. So when I talk about stress, I'm using that as a nutshell perspective. So the reference makes the point here. I'm not talking about hermetic stress, okay, which is, of course, things that help your system grow stronger and allow adaptation and capability for physical and mental bodies. I'm talking about the stress that's causing a negative response over a long period of time. And then all of those neurological impulses that we talked about seem out of whack and frankly upsetting and sometimes sad. And, ultimately people aren't feeling well. So in a couple of studies, which you can find, for instance, in the National Library of Medicine, it was found that the use of molecular hydrogen helps regulate cholesterol. So when we look at using hydrogen as a therapeutic agent and see where people have taken these studies to address specific bodily functions, when we say that hydrogen protects organs and can help against damaged organs, and that aids in the function of things like the brain and the pancreas and the heart, liver, eyes, lungs, these are different branches of what have been studied. So when the starting point and the starting line, right, has been adding molecular hydrogen therapeutically to the body, right, now we can see what the effect is in all of those different organs. And so that's how far we've come in understanding the science of molecular hydrogen. But in utilizing specifics of the hydrogen molecule, the recognition of aid to even insulin and glucose and cholesterol, right, then can lead to better functioning of organs such as the thyroid, better functioning of the brain. And now that these positive effects have been determined, the next step in potential is looking at hydrogen as a catalyst with other healthy natural aids to bring homeostasis and regularity of function, and ultimately more energy and anti-aging effects. Okay, so with all of the issues that can end up happening, over here from having damage in the GI tract and with the stomach being the center of the body and the system, this is an excellent starting point that keeps it simple, and then see where that leads for the rest of the body and organs to react and bring balance. But as an aid, ingesting molecular hydrogen is good for the GI and the liver, the cerebrum. It also increases the gut-brain axis communication and the upper regulation of secondary messenger molecules. So speaking of hydrogen being a catalyst, but some examples of using this in combo effort include adding a little bit of molecular hydrogen to a hyperbaric oxygen tank and to create a catalyst effect for that type of therapy. I've got a practitioner reporting back to me on her continued studies of using that. And some people have been using it in conjunction with their herbs, okay? Something that I want to emphasize here is that using molecular hydrogen is not a get out of jail free card. When it comes to your nutrition, there may be some things that we can add to the body to create a little bit of stress. Yes. So we need a few things that create a little bit of fear so that we can adapt. We need a few things that create, the hermetic stress so that our bodies can always adapt. But it has been recognized that utilizing what we might deem as a more healthy diet does aid in the effectiveness of molecular hydrogen with proper digestion and fat regulation. So a side note here is that something I need to look up is if there are any studies done on white versus brown fat when it comes to this. Once I find out, I will circle back around and share that with you. I'm not sure if that's out there yet, but my point here is that making sure that you use your knowledge and work with your body and give your body essential nutrients and vitamins from great sources. So make sure that you include leafy green vegetables and healthy meats. There's definitely space to introduce some healthy grains and organ meats, and everything that you do for your specific body that you know is helpful for you. Don't discount that and give yourself a hall pass just because you're including molecular hydrogen. Okay, in order to take advantage of the best case scenario, it's been shown that maintaining a pretty good diet helps the overall effect. And then we can see on the other side of that, the effect that comes in by using the hydrogen as the starting point and allowing some of the other stress and free radical damage to leave the body. Okay, therefore producing, harmony where we might not have known that stress was causing pain and discomfort and a problem. So speaking of pain, and maybe kind of one final note for today, is that I would like to discuss another aspect of how molecular hydrogen helps the physical body. Whether you're working out or training, or you've done something accidentally to maybe create some tissue damage, we have all experienced a little bit of pain in our muscles and joints. And then, so are you familiar with the acronym DOMS, right? It's the delayed onset muscle soreness. So, well, I've mentioned that I like to address as many types of information seekers as possible with this informative series, and to make it fair for everybody that is seeking understanding about the subject matter here, just to recognize that I end up helping a lot of people that do have stomach problems. So, I'll just call it that, just to nutshell it. But there's so many people that have had stomach problems, and it shows up in these very erratic forms. Sometimes it doesn't allow people to sleep at night. And then we all know what happens when we don't get enough sleep. Sometimes it can lead to a problem that's maybe embarrassing, for somebody, because they don't know how their stomach's going to react on any given day. And it can be a problem with bowel movements, or maybe just not allowing someone to enjoy the activities that they've enjoyed in the past because they're suffering from irritable bowel, right? Some people are hypersensitive. I'm one of those people. I witness things like adding lotions topically, just don't have certain ingredients, or ingesting things that can cause a flushed reaction, And so with the stomach being the center of our entire system, I did want to talk about that. But so now let's say that you don't have stomach problems, but you're a performer for a living, or you're trying to be very athletic, or you're on a new regimen to build, better muscle strength, and look out for your hips and your pelvic girdle and be preventative for your long-term health. All of these things that I mentioned create an inflammatory response in the body. So, and what I'm talking about today is that molecular hydrogen creates a response in the body that takes the edge off of those sensitivities. And in some cases, it's quite significant. But when we're talking about activity, creating muscle and joint soreness, it's postulated that an enzyme efflux points to the accumulation of calcium in the muscle tissue during exercise, which activates enzymes that break down muscle tissue. Sometimes we call that a little tear or something, and it causes pain and then an inflammatory response. Okay, so molecular hydrogen reaches systemic circulation within seconds, and it penetrates the organs and the cells within 2 to 10 minutes. So whether you're looking for something to just increase your productivity and aiming for your goals at home, or whether you're a physical therapist, maybe looking to use something as a catalyst to get your patients into a better healed space, the high cellular bioavailability and beneficial biological effects that have been found by using molecular hydrogen just makes it uniquely qualify as an optimal ergogenic molecule for exercise and medicine and sports performance. So, as an end note, I know that there is a specific mechanism and technology which this company that I'm sharing about, has identified as the proper way of creating and then administering molecular hydrogen in a home-based setting. And at the end of the day, it's about ingesting the longest lasting, most stable, pH neutral, non-toxic, natural hydrogen that can be found on the market. And that's what we have here in the LOURDES HYDROFIX. So that was my message for today. And maybe you have a perspective on how hydrogen could be the starting point for you as well. And I guess that's all that I have. I'm going to wrap that up. And I guess I'll just see you all in another episode. Thank you.